Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Y'all already know, man. Norris back with another one. I hope everyone's doing good out there, man. I got another album reaction to do. Today we're gonna do the new album by the late and great Mac Miller, rest in peace, Balloonerism. Yeah, so we all know that Mac Miller passed away in 2018 due to an overdose. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. This is a sad moment reviewing this album just because, like, he's one of those rappers that I grew up listening to alongside, like, Joey Badass, A$AP Rocky, Space Ghost Perp. Mac Miller was one of those dudes. It started to open up a lot of new sounds and new rappers started to come up around that time. It's pretty sad that he just passed away just like that. He recorded this album in 2014, so this album was meant to be released in 2018. Maybe because he passed away, everybody that represents Mac Miller, his family, his team, maybe decided to like hold off from releasing the album up until this point. Sad moment, but I mean, the best thing we can do, what Mac Miller would have wanted out of the album, is to like have us listen to it and enjoy it as much as we possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's probably what he wanted himself. I'm gonna definitely try to be as accurate as possible in terms of like how good the album is actually. I'm not gonna like change my perspective and rating on the album just because Mac Miller passed away, respectively. I'm going to try to critique the album as accurate as possible based off what I'm hearing. But definitely rest in peace, Mac Miller, a rapper that was game changing, making music that sounded nothing like the most popular songs that's out there. He was doing like a completely different thing. You know, it's going to influence a lot of young artists to do the same thing, to make music in their own way. That's like the main message Mac Miller tried to like push out. So just like every other episode, 4 tracks, just a snippet of each. Then I'm gonna talk about the album. I got a rating at the end of the video out of 10. All the songs I'm gonna play, this is all off of Mac Miller's SoundCloud account. The first track I'll play, this one's called $5 Pony Rides. Going crazy, keeping all of these secrets. How was that living? Every time I reminisce, I keep thinking it was better than. This one's called Stoned. Wish you could feel me, just never felt nothing. Knock on her door, she let me come in. I wish she. This one's called Funny Papers. I heard the answer in the gibberish of an old drunk. All he said was he's in no rush. This one's called Friendly Hallucinations. It's only real if it's real to you. Does it feel? It's only real if it's real to you. It's only real if it's real to you. Mac Miller, Balloonerism. Once again, rest in peace, Mac Miller, man. Pretty sad moment listening to this album and critiquing it. Right from the top of the album, very experimental sounded, very neo-soul sounding, a lot of like spacey, experimental, psychedelic concepts going on throughout the album. A lot of backup vocalist type of sounds, a lot of bridges going on. It's almost like the album was arranged as if it's a rock or jazz album more so than a rap album, even with like the live instruments making the sound very like spacey, and every melody is being like stretched out. Every song is almost 3 minutes or more long. Like, it's a lot more length to the album because of that, with like the bridges and a lot of the melodies being stretched out over like Mac Miller's vocals, the backup vocalists, even with the instruments being played throughout the songs. It's just a lot of psychedelic sounding concepts going on throughout the album. Experimental, psychedelic, neo-soul. It's basically that with a hint of rapping. It's a sound that you're not really used to hearing from rappers, especially rappers. But Mac Miller, he's always been that type of artist. He likes to mesh other genres with his rapping to make like a fresh sound. You don't even know what to expect from every song when you're going through the album. Every song is like a completely different sound. It still keeps that psychedelic, experimental, neo-soul type of energy throughout each song, because that's just the style of music that Mac Miller wanted to use with this album. It's not like a traditional rap album where you're getting your beats and then Mac Miller is just rapping, going off on the beat. He really takes the psychedelic and experimental style and meshes with his like rap style. You're getting like a completely different experience off of each song, but at the same time keeping that unique experimental psychedelic sound consistent throughout the album, making the album sound fresh as a piece, as a whole, rather than just sticking to the traditional route and trying to make a hit out of every song. It really sounds like Mac Miller really sat down and really paid attention to everything that he was saying in terms of his like songwriting, his lyrics, how all the beats were being put together. He's like on a whole nother like path in terms of the sound. As a Mac Miller fan growing up, I started off listening to like old school rap music, and that's what got me into like the new school rappers, just, you know, trying to look for like new rappers to listen to. Mac Miller, definitely one of those rappers. It wasn't really his punchlines and metaphors and his like lyrics that made me like his music. His beat selection, the overall sound of his music is what I enjoyed, like the concept, what the songs meant. That's what impressed me by Mac Miller. I always thought he was just an okay rapper, and I think like his strengths come from how accessible his lyrics are. He's really good at writing songs that's easy for the listener to understand the messages that he's trying to bring across. He's really good at writing them in a way where everybody can understand what he's talking about at the same time, and that's not the easiest thing to do. A lot of rappers are very abstract. The way they write, it can take you maybe days, maybe weeks to understand a certain like line. With Mac Miller, for the most part, most of his lyrics are easy to understand. That's part of the reason why I always thought he was not the best rapper when it comes to like actually rapping. He definitely proves me wrong on this album. There's a lot of poetic moments going on this album. Not a lot of like traditional punchlines that you'll hear from most rappers in today's day and age, but like the type of songwriting and punchlines that makes you like think. It's more on like the poetic side. He's taken what he sees in his everyday life, he's converting that information into his lyrics so that everything is like super accurate. The actual things that he's saying in his music, it's very accurate compared to what we actually see in our everyday lives in terms of what people deal with, what people struggle with, especially in terms of drug abuse. We all know like what happened with Mac Miller, so for the fact that this album is mainly about drug abuse and what different types of people go through when it comes to like drug abuse, rather if they're the actual person abusing the drug or they're maybe like a family member, a wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend that's dealing with their partner abusing a drug, outside looking in type thing. He takes every type of perspective you can possibly think of when it comes to like just everyday life, mainly drug abuse, because that's what the album focuses on, but he'll talk about things outside of drug abuse. You know what I'm saying? Just being a person living in this society, you know, like the type of emotions you go through and the type of things that you think about, especially being an adult, the transition from being a younger person into being an adult, and the different problems that you have to go through throughout that process. You start a family, now you have to start making more money now that you're older, and there's different things that you have to pay for compared to being a kid. He talks a lot about that type of stuff. He gets very emotional and real with that. It brings like a different side out of Mac Miller, definitely. Even though he's had albums like this before that's like similar to this concept, he definitely did his thing. He's definitely rapping at his highest level in terms of like how hard hitting the punchlines are, how real he gets with his lyrics, even like the flows on here. He's definitely in his bag and rapping at his highest level on this album. Even with his singing, I feel like he takes it to another level. Just like his rapping, it sounds like he's been training his vocals before recording this album. It's pretty crazy that this album's from 2014, so his singing probably got even better. Yeah, the singing on here is definitely strong. I think he's singing at his highest level, just like the rapping. It's basically a jazz, psychedelic, experimental neo soul album. I feel like it's more on those genres rather than a rap album. He's still rapping throughout the album. I think it's impressive the fact that a rapper can make an album like this. A lot of rappers can't really do the same thing. Most rappers will stick to what they're good at, their signature style. Even with their beat selection, most of the beats will sound the same, so you're getting the same type of song, and everything ends up working out just because that's what the people want to hear. At the same time, Mac Miller sort of steps out of that realm, brings us an album that's closer to neo soul, jazz, experimental, live instruments are being used, the songwriting and the concepts throughout the songwriting are being arranged with the instruments. There's bridges throughout the music. Mac Miller is singing and rapping throughout the music. He has guys like Thundercat and SZA featured on the album, bringing vocals, extending melodies throughout the album with like the bridges, just giving us like a completely different sound and just a refreshing sound. We've already heard sounds and songs after 2014 similar sounding to this album. There's something very special about this album compared to what Mac Miller has done before. For me personally, this album stands out compared to what he's done in his past, compared to like other songs in his discography. Like this one really stands out. A lot of what he was talking about, just the different emotions and the different struggles that a lot of people go through, different people all around the world, from a young age, growing up in like elementary school, high school, getting older. You have to now go to university, college, or whatever, get a job, go to the army. From your like early 20s, you start to grow up into your 30s and you start to realize all these different things you have to understand and control in your life in order to be a living civilian in life, a living adult. Just the different emotions that you go through, losing friends as you get older. They get married, they have kids, so they no longer have time to like do this like friendship thing where you're hanging out with the people you grew up with. So he just gives off a real perspective on life. Also like the drug life. I feel like what the album was mainly about, people struggling with drug abuse, weed, all the way to like the strongest type stuff, meth and heroin, the different levels of struggles, because there's people that struggle with weed and then there's people that struggle with heroin. Two different drugs, one being super stronger than the other, more like lethal and dangerous than the other, but there's different types of people in the world. There's different levels of struggle. Some people will struggle with like a lighter drug and maybe it can get extreme even though it's a lighter drug compared to like a harder drug. He like makes his songs in a way where he's given real life perspectives on like the different type of struggles that you can experience as a human being. Just very impressed the way he put the album together. Such a complicated concept. It's like he put it all into a 14-track album in a very effortless way. In terms of a rating, I'm giving this one a 9.4 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 for me, just because I feel like he doesn't do other style of rap songs enough to like give you a little bit of everything with this album. That's the only reason why it's keeping me from giving it a 10 out of 10. He goes too much outside of the traditional sound of rap. For that, I gotta take a little bit of points off. That's the only thing that I see bad about the album. It makes it a little bit tough to enjoy it in terms of like your typical like rap fan, but like outside of that, pretty close to being a perfect album, man. I think it's his best project I've ever heard from Mac Miller. The track listing, the name of the album, how the track listing connects with the name of the album, the chemistry between the songs and the concept of what the album is supposed to be about. Balloonerism, 9.4 out of 10. Mac Miller, Balloonerism. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. This is a pretty sad album review to do, but we got through it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Demonetization, that song dropping for the 24th of January, the 23rd through YouTube and SoundCloud. If you have me through YouTube and SoundCloud, you can hear the track a little bit earlier on the 23rd, but the 24th is the official day. And then I got another track dropping for February 4th. I'll give you guys the details about that after I drop Demonetization. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. That's all I got for this episode, and I'm out of here.